Now further to make the outcome of the EFA in terms of data set, because we don't have any outcome of EFA in terms of data set, or if you want to use the output of EFA as input for any other analysis such as regression or any other thing, then we need some kind of factor score for that. So how do you get the factor score? So let us show how to get the factor score. Go to analyze, dimension reduction, factor. So this we already seen all these buttons except the scores. Come to scores, now save as variable. So there are various methods. By default we'll use a regression method and continue and say OK. So the moment you say OK, in output there is no much change. It is as usual what we saw old. Only in the input set, when I say data set, we are getting a new series of data fact1 underscore 1, fact2 underscore 2 till 6 factors are generated. So this generated a regression based factor score which is ranged between minus some value to plus some value because it's a standardized score. It's a normalized score. Now this we can use further as an input for any other analysis. Now in this case, this is one way of doing. There is an alternative way also. Now if you want to check a correlation among these factors, we may not get a correlation. The reason here is we have chosen a varimax as a rotation method, and varimax shows that there is no relation between a one factor to other factor. For instance, let us show the correlation among all these factors. Analyze, correlate, bivariate, and select all the factor score starting from factor 1 to factor 6 and drop it other side and say OK. So you can see now the correlation score shows almost 0 for everything. So this was the reason here is because we generated the factor score based on varimax. Now assume that there is a relation between one factor and the other factor. Then how the score look like, whether we will get a correlation or not. Let us do this. Go to analyze, here factor. This time in terms of rotation we will choose oblimin and continue and say OK. So there is no much difference in the output. We'll get as usual same output. But in terms of factor score, so these are the factor score generated based on varimax. These are the factor score generated based on, we can see two set of factor score. This all based on varimax, this all based on oblimin. Now let us do the correlation for oblimin. So let us take the last 6 item and say OK. So now you can see the correlations are moderately happen. It is unlike earlier, it is shows 0. This time it shows even 30% between factor 4 and factor 1. It's very moderately correlated. So we have to take a call. What is the assumption of using varimax or oblimin? The assumption is there is no relation between or among the factors. We can choose varimax, otherwise we can use a oblimin.